After 8 years of growing poverty and desperation, more and more Canadians are suffering with depression. Some of them are going to food banks asking for help ending their lives, not because they're sick, but because life has become so miserable and they want to end their lives altogether. This government has suggested veterans should end their lives instead of getting help that they need. And now they've announced that a year from today, they will introduce measures to end the lives of people who are depressed. Will they recognize that we need to treat depression and give people hope for a better life rather than ending their life?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is totally irresponsible for the Leader of the Opposition to misrepresent what this means. All of the assessors and providers for MAID are purposely trained to eliminate people that are suicidal. And so this is for...
Order. The Honourable Minister, please proceed. You have 10 seconds left.
On this side, and with the support of the expert panel and so many Canadians, will continue to develop and provide the kind of mental health supports that are necessary for people who are depressed. But the people...
The Honourable Member for La Prairie.
After 8 years of growing poverty and desperation, more and more Canadians are suffering with depression. Some of them are going to food banks asking for help ending their lives, not because they're sick, but because life has become so miserable and they want to end their lives altogether. This government has suggested veterans should end their lives instead of getting help that they need. And now they've announced that a year from today, they will introduce measures to end the lives of people who are depressed. Will they recognize that we need to treat depression and give people hope for a better life rather than ending their life?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is totally irresponsible for the Leader of the Opposition to misrepresent what this means. All of the assessors and providers for MAID are purposely trained to eliminate people that are suicidal. And so this is for
Order. The Honorable Minister, please proceed. You have 10 seconds left.
in this on this side, and with the support of the expert panel and so many Canadians, will continue to develop and provide the kind of mental health supports that are necessary for people who are depressed. But the people.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Speak Your Mind, the show that lets you, the viewer, wherever it is that you're watching us from, let us know your opinion. And today's topic, what we're going to be talking about, is about euthanasia. In other words, when somebody is at the point of no return in their illness, when somebody who is said to be in their last legs, as they say, can they pull the plug? Do you think it's something that is a bit more serious than what we think it out to be? Ms. Audrey, if this person wants to partake in our experiment, our survey, they can definitely do that. Good evening, and good evening, Ms. Lupita.
Good evening, Pastor. Yes, as we had said, the program today is about euthanasia. In other words, if this person is unfamiliar with the word, it's also known as MAID here in Canada. It's medical assistance aid in dying. So this question we have for all of you, as you can scan the QR code and join our Telegram poll, the question is it a compassionate option for terminally ill individuals, or does it raise ethical dilemmas and risks? Let us know what you think for the following. It takes the pain away, or do you believe natural death is better, or does it sound like murder? Let us know what you think, and we'll be announcing the results during our program.
And Ms. Lupita, if this person wants to send us a message, if they want to give us a call, they can definitely do that, right?
Yes, they could definitely send us a message right now so that we could read their comments on air at 437-233-9815. Or if you want to call us and you could say it on air right now. Also, we have the number 877-785-8700.
Thank you so much. And I think we already have our first caller. Let's see if we can connect them now. I believe we have Miss Josie. Can we see if we can connect her now? Hello?
Yes.
Miss Josie, can you hear me?
Hi, sir. Yes, sir, I can hear you.
How you doing, Miss Josie?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Look, our topic tonight is about euthanasia. In what you do, Miss Josie, have you ever had a case? Have you ever had to kind of make a call or to help somebody through something like that, where they kind of pull the plug on their own selves?
So were they what? I'm sorry?
Where they would determine that they didn't want to live anymore. Their sickness, I guess maybe the patient thought, was a little bit too much or too much to bear, that they prefer dying. Have you ever had a case like that?
I've seen lots of deaths in my field, in my career. I haven't seen so much that. I guess I've seen it mostly in the elderly, where they are terminal and there is no other, they're too far gone. And, have you heard of hospice? That's been, one of the routes, that we talk to about with family, keep, making the patient comfortable. But not euthanasia, not them saying actually put me to death. I have not dealt with that yet.
Now, when it comes to dealing with a family who is more or less in that same field, I'm sure that every case is different. Is there something that maybe inside of you tell said family member who has a relative who's dying, who's already on their deathbed? Is there something that you let them know? Is there something that a process that you do or that you take to just make them feel better?
Yes, so there's, like you said, case by case. Some patients are still, oriented. You can discuss it with them. Their, option, like you're terminal. There is no, no cure. There's no kind of like you're at end of life here, and you give them their options, and hospice is one of them. Sometimes the patient is altered, or they have dementia, or they can't answer questions like that for themselves. You discuss with the family whatever their illness is.
And
you
now,
know,
Miss,
and
you being somebody who you work with patients every single day, what's your opinion on it? Do you think it's something that's right, or do you think it's something a bit out of line for somebody to call that on themselves?
yeah, euthanasia, me personally, I'm against it. You know, it's also known as, you know, physician-assisted suicide to some people.
Wow.
I think that everybody should go on God's timing. You know, I agree with helping them through, like with their pain, with their anxiety, you know, but not actually pushing a medication to kill them, to help them die.
You said it was called physician's assisted suicide?
Yeah, that's how some people have known euthanasia as, like physician-assisted suicide. Yes, sir.
Wow. Ms. Josie, thank you so much for speaking your mind, for giving us your insight. Have a good night, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Take care. You can keep giving us a call right now, 877-785-8700, or even through WhatsApp if you want, 437-233-9815. We're going to be going to our next video now. I want you to pay very close attention, and if you guys want to call, if you guys want to text, you can definitely do so. We'll be right back.
Euthanasia is ending your life because you have an illness or a medical condition which you do not want to live with.
Euthanasia means assisted suicide when times are tough, maybe when the quality of life isn't great.
I know it's used a lot in vets when an animal is in a lot of pain or simply just won't live for long. Rather than prolonging the pain, they'll just injection and done.
A terminal disease is when you're going to die from it in the end anyways.
Someone who's terminally ill might want euthanasia because they won't get better. So they see it as, I can't do these things that I would like to do and it's too much pain to live. So they choose to die instead.
Active euthanasia is where someone has used something to help a certain patient die. So, for instance, a lethal injection would be active euthanasia.
In England, it's not legal. I know that. Usually most people go to Switzerland.
And then passive is where
people are allowed to die. So maybe switching off the life support machine when they're suffering or very ill, they're not going to recover.
Voluntary euthanasia is where you know what's going to happen to you and you say that you want this happening.
Non-voluntary euthanasia is where another person made the decision for them to die. So, for instance, a doctor or family member.
I don't really agree with it because I think that you shouldn't end your life just because of, like, maybe if you're paralyzed, then you could still live maybe 40 years.
Quality of life is when you have a good life and you feel like you can do the things you want to do and capable of doing those things.
If the quality of life isn't good, I'd want them to have a nice ending to life instead of being in pain, suffering.
Dying with dignity is like they want to go to euthanasia because they want to die before they get to a stage where they're no longer able to do things themselves and they have to have other people to do it for them. So say if you couldn't even like wash yourself and stuff like that, maybe that's classified as not being dignified.
Some people, they can't walk. Some people can't do normal everyday things that people take for granted.
If you have your family support and you're not undignified, are you? Because they're just looking out for you and helping you come through like your illness.
I think euthanasia should be allowed because it's their life, so they should be able to choose when they die.
I think that you're kind of wasting your life just because you want to end it because it's too hard. But I think there's a lot of things that that could help that. There's like groups that you go to. I think that going to euthanasia is kind of just taking the easy option.
I believe in the sanctity of life.
Sanctity of life is like how some Christians and Muslims believe God gave you that life and only He has the right to take it away.
I think God gave us life and we are not the ones that should be taking away our own lives.
In the Quran it says that you shouldn't, only God has a decision to take a life and I'm not God.
This is where I will say I'm not a true Buddhist because when it comes to my religion, killing is very bad, and especially when you kill yourself, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. But personally, I believe it is your choice.
I think that people should let God decide when they die. He created us. That means he's gonna decide when he ends our life. Because if you've been good all your life, Christians believe that you'll go to heaven. But if you decide to commit suicide or get assisted suicide, you're gonna go to hell.
Euthanasia shouldn't be allowed because I'm a religious man. In the law of God, like, you are still taking your own life, so it's classed as murder. So if you was to commit euthanasia, you wouldn't really have much to look forward to because that's probably the biggest sin.
Well, it's not full out murder because they want to die and they're not living the life that they want to live.
If a cure was found after a person had had euthanasia, it wouldn't be so great because the family would be in more grief. They'd be thinking that the person would still be there with them when they've wasted their life. So that wouldn't be great, in my opinion. That would be one of the negatives to euthanasia.
I think euthanasia should be allowed, but it should definitely be their choice.
It's going to be checked by psychologists and people who know about that. So it's going to go through a series of tests to know if the person's mentally well for that. So it's not going to just be a spur of the moment thing.
If they're not mentally stable, then the choice should be going to their closest family member.
It should be taken with caution because it might just be a split-second decision. So I think one day you apply for euthanasia and in a month they ask you again. If you still want to end it, then you should be allowed to have that choice. But of course, multiple doctors should confirm that you are definitely going to die. There's no way around it.
I think that there's other alternatives to euthanasia, like hospices, because they you can go there for like end of life treatment. That could be a lot easier on the family as well, because at least then they've got time to take in what's going to happen, and they know that eventually the family member's going to die, but then they're dying in a nice way and not just ending it by killing themselves. Well, I think our hospice is a really good thing, because if you have a terminal illness and you're going to die anyway, you want to be around people, or you might want to be around people who know what you're going through and who understand you and are doing the best that they can to try and make your death, I guess, as smooth as possible and as comfortable as possible. And they're just trying to do what is best for you.
There's new hope tonight for Canadians suffering with intolerable pain. A bill expanding access to assisted death has received royal assent. Those who aren't near their natural death now have the right to seek medical assistance in dying. But as Heather Yerkes West reports, some groups feel the new law puts some vulnerable Canadians at risk.
Janet Hopkins has been living with a serious autoimmune disease for the last 13 years. She says she lives in constant pain.
Since last February, I have been thinking of suicide. I've talked to my family about it because the pain is excruciating when you get a flare-up.
Because her condition was not life-threatening, Hopkins had not been eligible for a medically assisted death. But with the passing of Bill C-7 on Wednesday, that all changed.
I started to cry because I've wanted this for so long.
Under the new law, intolerably suffering Canadians who aren't near death become immediately eligible. It also removes a requirement that patients be able to give final consent at the time of their death.
And that's wonderful, because what's happened in the past is many people have had to opt to take their death early in order to avoid that situation because they were at such fear and risk of losing capacity.
The government had until next week to bring the law into compliance with a 2019 Quebec Superior Court ruling that found Canada's previous law was unconstitutional. In 2 years, access will also expand to those suffering with severe mental illness, something opponents worry will put vulnerable Canadians at risk, particularly those from Indigenous communities, where mental health supports can be difficult to access.
It sends a culturally and socially acceptable message that suicide is one option to end one's suffering, and that is contrary to our message that we're sending to our youth.
The new law requires people not facing imminent death undergo a 90-day assessment before a medically assisted death can be accessed. Heather Yerkes West, Global News, Calgary.
1-877-785-8700. You can give us a call right now. You can even send us a message through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. You're going to be able to speak your mind, share your opinion, and let us know what do you think? Like you just finished seeing, no? A little bit heartbreaking when you hear news like that. But I think we also have a caller. Let's see if we can connect them now. Lorena. Lorena, can you hear me? Lorena?
Hi, sir. Yes, I can hear you.
Lorena, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Lorena, quick question. Have you ever had an experience where euthanasia was something that was present, maybe not with you, but with a family member?
I've never had an experience with the procedure, but I've, definitely had like very traumatic deaths. I would say like in my family, we've had like my grandfather, he passed away with a stroke, and sadly enough, I found him having that stroke. And then we had my uncle who had a very anticipated death because he had throat cancer.
Yeah.
And on my uncle's like last day, he was on hospice, so he definitely lived like those years. He just like 2 years with the cancer, and then like the last like 90 days, I think you can say, it was very like he had so much pain that he couldn't even feel it basically. And he himself, he paid for his like what the procedure would happen after that, like his funeral, everything. He had it paid off because he just didn't really want to live anymore. And thinking about it, he probably would be a type of person that would have probably even considered the procedure. Me, I'm against it, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely living by that
No,
space of overcoming.
that was going to be my next question. When you see things like that happen in your family, you kind of already on your own, you kind of form an opinion. I'm guessing that was something like you said, a little bit traumatic, a little bit that kind of left a mark on you. Now, on top of your own case, seeing with your family members, why would you be against it, or why would you not be in favor of it?
I think it's because I honestly would more consider it, definitely like the lady before me said, no, with that like physician suicide, I guess like a medical suicide kind of thing, where you not that you want to die because you are tired of living, but you definitely want to die without that. You like dying without hope.
You don't even want to have that pain anymore, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's living without that hope of being able to recover. Or if you're young and you, for example, you have cancer and a young person thinks, oh, that's it, my life is over. It's living like that mentality.
And now let's say someone is watching us and they're on hospice, or there's somebody who they have, just like the last video that we showed, they have such excruciating pain that they don't want to live like that anymore. You being somebody who I can even say, has even more experience and authority to speak, why do you think this person shouldn't go through with a procedure like that? What would your message to them be?
I would say, it's all in God's timing, I guess. It's all like very like you have to wait until that very last moment before losing it, because you have that faith inside of you that you're going to overcome it. It's not losing hope. It's maintaining. We saw it in COVID-19 where at peak, that's when most people were dying because they were stressed about what they were living. And now that it's barely around, you don't see anybody dying from it because they don't have that mentality, I'm going to die, I'm going to die.
Of course. So you think one can be accompanied and not just motivated, but can even change the idea that there's no hope, because there is.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of hope. No one has the right to take someone's hope, and no one has the right to even lose it. If you're definitely living with that pain, try overcoming it. Definitely there's something that's better for you. Think about what's better. Think about the future. Don't start thinking about death. I don't think the first thing that someone should think of is death.
Lorena, thank you so much for speaking your mind. Have a good night, okay?
Thank you.
Take care. You can keep giving us a call, Miss Audrey. Mr. Peter, I think we have some comments regarding our topic, right?
Yes, Pastor, we have Teresa that sent us a message that said like this: being a Canadian, I've heard a lot about this debate. I think the issue is that our social services are crumbling, which makes MAID a little bit more of an appealing option for people who have nowhere left to turn. The problem, therefore, is not MAID, but the crumbling social services. We should be making housing affordable, healthcare accessible, and other such changes, at which point we will be sure that people accessing MAID aren't doing it because they have no other available options. And we have JD that says like this: I work in a long-term care in Canada. I work with people of all ages who are dealing with a variety of diseases and illnesses that completely impact their quality of life. I have had clients choose to do MAID, and I have seen how it truly is liberating and a positive experience for them. Allowing someone to choose how their life ends gives them control of their circumstances when diseases have taken control away from them. These are the two comments that we received, Pastor, and we'll be sharing more during the program.
And now, Ms. Lupita, just in the same exact way we had Lorena say, no, that, going through it with someone, you kind of give them a little bit of hope. You kind of let them know, hey, look, there's a way out. You have any comments either regarding that, or you can even speak your mind on that?
Yeah. So I have Riza, who says, my grandmother did this after losing functionality in both her arms. It was difficult yet beautiful. Our family was in the room with her. And Danielle, that also is for the MAID. She says, my 25-year-old best friend used MAID after terminal and aggressive cancer diagnosis. I'm grateful that they got the option to choose when and how. They got to go and got to be surrounded by the closest. We got a proper goodbye. So we have the other side of it, another type of point of view of being for it. There are people who are okay with it, with seeing that their family members get a chance to say when they want to go. I personally don't really agree to it. I definitely think that, we understand that there are people who go through the pain, that go through that situation, but I think there's so many more consequences to it. Not only does the person that's feeling the pain get to go, but then they leave that traumatic idea or view of it with the family members. So I don't really agree to it.
Well, thank you so much. We're gonna go and check now what the streets of Toronto had to say. You can keep giving us a call, 1-877-785-8700, or you can even send us a message through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. We were here in the cold streets of Toronto, and we asked everybody what they thought about our topic. Pay attention.
What do you think about MAID, medical aid assistant in dying?
I think it's great. I think it's something that makes sense. To suffer doesn't make sense at all.
I would rather just wait for my time from God, as in for me to go when it's time, irrespective of whether there is too much pain, there is a medication that cure me or not. I would rather just wait my time out. I won't want that option of maybe failing the organs and then removing life support system. I would rather just wait it out and let my time come.
Thing about taking people's life, and I don't think they should, because even though you're sick and you're really, really sick, okay, they would give you now the option to say, yes, take my life. But some of them, the person is not thinking right because they are very sick. And, so I think it's a bad law.
It depends on the person that is in that situation, right? I mean, if they're not able to think like what they want for their own life or their death, it's not decision of any other person, right? So that's my only thought. Like, if I am deciding for myself what I want to do with my life, that's okay, but not other people deciding for me, right? Because that's why we're human beings, right? What do you think could be ethical dilemmas with people deciding whether or not they should go forward with it or not?
Ethical, I think other people have issues with it. I think the people that are suffering, I'm sure they wouldn't have issues in having it done, but others, like for religious reasons, probably would have some issues with it.
Everybody is actually entitled to their opinion, and I will surely respect if they opt for that, because it's actually not easy seeing a family member going through pains, having nothing to help out with, and it's their opinion, and it's something that I will respect that if they want it.
I guess, again, with the basis that we are human beings, hope right? There's always hope. So I would say yes, go with it. Like, do everything that is in your hands to help the people. How do you think the legalization of this in Canada impacted discussion of ending life and medical ethics?
How do I think it? I think it would be a great thing if it was legal. Definitely.
It actually became legal in
Oh.
2016.
See, that I didn't even know, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there's still a lot of religious opposition to it, but suffering. I think, as somebody who survived cancer, I'll tell you, those that have had cancer and have had, put in these places where they spend the rest of their life, doesn't make sense to me. Go in dignity.
I would deny. I wouldn't pass that law, or how you might call it, on anyone, especially a relative of mine. No. Think God given life, He's supposed to take it.
I have a bunch of patients who are waiting for it, right? They've been approved.
They've not been approved. They're waiting and hoping to be approved.
These two doctors have conflicting viewpoints on euthanasia in their country.
I think Canada's approach to assisted dying has been successful.
I am very concerned about medical assistance in dying laws in Canada.
Euthanasia became legal in Canada in 2016. They call it medical assistance in dying, or MAID for short. Since then, the number of assisted deaths in Canada has risen to over 10,000 people in 2021. That's more people by raw number than any other country where assisted dying is legal. In 2021, eligibility for MAID expanded to include people who are not nearing the end of their lives. And starting next year, that will include people suffering solely from serious mental conditions too. Our participants are here to engage in a new kind of debate.
Yeah, that's where you and I would disagree.
I know.
Where instead of fighting over unvetted talking points, we ask each expert to pick 3 facts that their opponent would have to concede are true. Dr. Maher, do you agree that these facts are true?
I do.
Dr. Green, do you agree that these facts are true?
Yes, I do.
They'll present their facts and they'll each get a chance to respond with a footnote. And after the fact exchange, we'll also have 4 additional rounds to further clarify their positions. This is a fact-check debate about euthanasia in Canada. Here we go.
In Canada, assisted dying is a rights-based issue resulting from constitutional court challenges. The legalization of assisted dying did not come about due to voter-initiated ballots, as happened in some US states, or because the government thought it was a good idea, both of which can change with shifting political winds. Importantly, these court cases were brought and won by people with both terminal and non-terminal illnesses.
It is true that court cases gave people who didn't have terminal illness the right to have assisted deaths. But one of the plaintiffs in that key case, Jean Truchon, who had cerebral palsy, when he was considering getting assisted death, what he said was that it was the loneliness that was brought on them by the pandemic that was leading him to make that choice. So I'm really concerned about what that means for people in Canada who will make choices to die, not for medical reasons alone, or maybe not even primarily because of medical reasons, but because of social reasons, poverty, isolation, loneliness. That worries me a great deal.
Jean Truchon ultimately led his challenge to the new law for assisted dying because he was about to lose function in his remaining limb. That was his initial incentive. Ultimately, this comes down to a question of rights and who, if anyone, controls our lives. My name is Dr. Stephanie Green, and I'm a provider of assisted dying in British Columbia, Canada. I've always been taught about the importance of patient-centered care, and I have found it to be profoundly meaningful to be involved at this time in their life and to provide and facilitate their final wishes.
There are 15 countries that allow some form of medically assisted dying, including 10 US states and Washington, D.C., that allow people with a 6-month prognosis to self-administer a prescribed drug. Canada is one of 8 countries that allows assisted dying for people without a terminal diagnosis. Next year, it will join most of these countries in extending eligibility to people whose only condition is a mental illness. In these countries, cases involving primarily psychiatric conditions are rare. In Belgium and the Netherlands, they made up about 1% of all cases.
Canada's assisted dying laws lack the safeguards that other countries have. There is no requirement that all reasonable treatments at least have been tried by the patient. The doctors are able to initiate the conversation. There is no review process. There's nobody looking to see whether people in Canada licensed to do this have in fact followed the law and followed the rules.
Canada rejected paternalism in medicine quite a few decades ago. The Supreme Court decision states that a patient is not required to undertake medical treatments that are unacceptable to the individual. We have long accepted that patients can refuse medical treatment even if the result of that refusal is death. There's actually a very rigorous process in place for this assisted dying model. There's a number of eligibility criteria, but once they're met, there are on top of that a number of procedural safeguards.
Of course, we're in complete agreement that paternalism is not a good thing, and every Canadian is free to make their own choices. But when we're talking about assisted death, we're talking about choices made at a point in time when a person is profoundly vulnerable. My name is John Maher. I'm a psychiatrist with a community mental health team in Ontario, Canada. My goal is to help my patients live their lives the way they want and to do all we can to ensure that mental illness and all that follows from that doesn't keep them from living full, rich lives.
Now, I wanted to ask you about a fantastic piece you wrote, a brave piece about Canada's euthanasia laws. These assisted dying laws are supposed to be all about compassion. Tell me why you say it's a horror story in Canada.
Well, I've written before quite a lot about this subject. It's a horrible subject, euthanasia, because end-of-life care is always an incredibly sensitive issue. And people have incredibly strong views in every direction. There's an issue of bodily autonomy and much more. But in recent years, I've interviewed doctors in, for instance, Belgium and the Netherlands who have performed euthanasia and continue to do so. And I noticed when I first started speaking to them that there was one thing in particular, because Britain was looking at euthanasia at this time. They often remarked to me that Britain had better palliative care than their countries because we didn't have euthanasia. Now, that struck me as a very interesting and important point. And that was with the allowance only of euthanasia for people with inoperable terminal conditions at the very end of their lives. But what I noticed also was that in country after country where this was done, it moved. People said, oh, you're getting all slippery slope on us, Douglas. But there have been cases I have written about and tried to highlight in recent years which really do prove that on this, the slope is very slippery indeed. I wrote last year about this poor young woman who was involved in the Belgian airport attack, the Brussels airport attack in 2016, saw a number of her classmates at the age of 17 blown to smithereens. And she was euthanized last year by the Belgian state because she had PTSD and depression from that attack. Now, Belgium won't of course, execute the perpetrators of the attack, the cell that survived, but they did end up putting her down on the state. And something very similar is happening in Canada. And in short, what it is in 2016, the Trudeau government, with all the liberal, hippy-dippy, lovey stuff that they always do around everything, said this is just end-of-life care. And then they brought it forward. And now we have the fact that in March of next year, that what they call MAID Act, which is the Assisted Dying Act in Canada, will, as of March next year, be allowed to take in patients who are not terminally ill and are not physically ill, but have a mental illness. And there have already been, and I write about this in the piece, I urge people to read it, because it's a very, very serious issue, this. A 47-year-old woman who suffered from anorexia all of her life is going to be able to be euthanized next March in Canada. Now, what does that say to all of the young women and their families struggling with anorexia? And what does it say about the soldiers returning from war with PTSD in Canada, one of whom has already been suggested to have euthanasia to deal with his PTSD? This when people say this is all slippery slope argument, Douglas, very, very cheap argument, I say, no, the slope is really slippery. And in societies where we're always told, rightly or wrongly, that mental health is equivalent to physical health and mental illness equivalent to physical illness, just watch as this becomes a road to hell.
Oh, I don't think it's even a slippery slope. It's a bloody water slide. Well, we're talking here about state-sanctioned suicide for mental health issues. We look at suicide as a tragedy because that's what it is, and now we're facilitating it. The state's facilitating it. It really is just and in the Benelux countries, as you explained, that's already a reality.
And we're back with all of you. And I think we also have another caller. Let's see if we can connect Ashley. Ashley, can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
How you doing, Ashley?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. We've been asking everybody regarding our topic today about euthanasia. Basically, when you have a family member who's sick beyond saving, and said person either makes the call, or maybe a family member has to make a call. Have you ever had a situation or maybe a similar situation go on with something like that?
Well, I had my uncle. He had a heart attack, and his brain was pretty much, dead. But they put him on the machine. His son had to make the decision whether to terminate him or, continue leaving him. So that was one experience that I had. In my personal, experience that I had with euthanasia was with my dog. But that was because, there was nothing else that I could do to save her. So the best bet was to put her down.
Now, when you had that situation go on with your uncle, and you saw that that's basically how everything went down, what did you think? Did you think it was a bad idea? Would you have done something different? What's your mind about the euthanasia?
I think that in some cases it should be done. In that case, I think since he was pretty much gone at that point, I think it was the better option to do it. Does it feel right? No, because it's like you have that slight hope that, something can happen. But, I wouldn't want to be in that situation that, I have to go that route. But unfortunately, I think that route was the better option for him.
So you think it's basically every story is different, every case is different. So do you think there's ever, or there can ever be a moment where it's just a yes or no, it's a black and white, or do you think we're always going to have to weigh out those options?
I think it's never easy, and I think before we go that route, we should seek other options, maybe other type of medical treatment before going that route. It's a very hard decision to make, but at that point, I think it's like you've gone through all the options, and that would be the only option in this case.
I understand. Ashley, thank you so much for speaking your mind, for sharing with us. Have a good night, okay?
Thank you.
Take care. You can keep giving us a call right now, Miss Audrey. I think this person who has been voting on the Telegram, this person who has been placing their vote through the app, I think we already have our results, correct?
We have here the results for our show, Pastor, because we have been asking, right, the medical assistance aid in dying for other people that have been watching us and have been actually talking about this, right? The options that we have placed here, does it take the pain away? Is it natural death better, or does it sound like murder? And we have the following, sorry, 1 second, Pastor. We are concluding the poll. And it's 22% that says it takes the pain away, another 32% that say it sounds like murder, and we have 46% that say natural death is better.
Natural death is better. Ms. Lupita, do we have any comments?
Yes. So according to what Ashley said, no, with euthanizing her own dog, we have this comment that goes from Fanny. We have no hesitation doing this for our pets we love. Why not humans? And we have Eric that says, sick and insane are the people that pass this law. They are criminals, and this should be crime against humanity. So we have those comments for tonight.
Thank you so much. I wanted to share with you guys who are watching us now. Maybe you're someone who is sick. Maybe right now you have gone to the hospital, you've gone to the doctor, you've done everything you needed to do. You've been somebody who has even said, look, I'm just hoping on a prayer. But the Word of God shows us already what Jesus was able to do for you. You who are sick, you who are probably right now at the worst of the worst, you who right now are going through the most difficult time. Maybe today you were diagnosed with an incurable disease. Today you just got out of the hospital, or maybe today you just went to the hospital. But I promise you there's a way out. In the book of Isaiah 53, verse 4, it goes, but he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Then it says, by his stripes we are healed. So the Word of God is what allows us to understand that to our solution or to our problem, there's a solution. And that's what I want to share with you, that there is a way out. As a matter of fact, what I want to do with you now, I want to make a prayer. I want to pray for you who are watching us. Do you want a way out? Do you want to stop suffering? Then I want to pray for you right now. So how about this? I'm going to extend my hand to the camera, and I just want you to hear every word I'm saying. And if you have faith, no matter how big, no matter how small, believe that God is working right now. Okay? My God, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I determine now the healing in the life of this person who watches us. My Lord, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what sickness it is, whether it's arthritis, whether it's ammonia, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, pain, anything. I determine their healing right now. You who listen to us, be healed from the top of your head to the sole of your feet. What has been giving you pain, what has been working against you, Jesus right now, he enters inside and he heals you. He enters right now and he frees you. He delivers you. He sets you free. My God, your word says that by your stripes we are healed. I determine, my God, in these next couple of days, this person is going to notice the difference. In Jesus' name, and if you believe, say amen. Amen. God is working right now. God is working inside of your body in this moment. But take a step further. Be with us this Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning in our gathering of faith and miracles. We're located here in Toronto, 2420 Dufferin Street. We're right there on the corner of Bowie Avenue, about a block and a half from Eglinton Avenue. You can take the 929 bus, the 29 bus. You're going to end up right in front of our building. Do you want to stop suffering? I promise, no matter how much pain you feel right now, physically, spiritually, miracles don't fall from the sky. Don't wait for your miracle. Provoke your miracle. This Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning. And just so that you can see how God has been working, I want to show you Virginia's story. Somebody who was depressed, somebody who didn't know where to go, somebody who found the power of God and now lives a whole new story. Pay attention. God bless. See you soon.
I had a lot of problems, and they started at work. Things started to get overwhelming, and I had to leave that job, and that was the only source of my income. And when I left the job, I thought things were going to be better. I was going to find a new job, but it was hard to find a new job. So then I started getting very depressed, frustrated, and started having insomnia, really bad insomnia. And I went to the doctor and I tried to get some help, and she put me on a medication that made things worse. I had suicidal and homicidal ideations. I went back to the doctor and told her that I couldn't function with this medication. All I would do was cry. And I was walking around like a zombie. I know that my life was really, really in a bad state. When I came to the church, I didn't have a job. I hadn't had a job for 3 years. And within 2 or 3 months, my whole situation, my whole life started to change for the better. I got baptized and I surrendered my life to the Lord. And I started feeling much, much different. Things started to flow more easily for me. My life started changing almost immediately. I just felt different as a different person. And little by little, the depression left, the insomnia left. I also had physical ailments. They left. I became more positive in my thinking, and things were opening up. So to me, it's a win-win situation. Today, I can truly say that I'm very, very happy. I wake up with a smile on my face. I get a complete 8-hour sleep at night. If I stay up, it's because I choose to see a late movie or something, but not because I have insomnia or depression anymore. And there's a sense of peace, joy, and happiness in my life that wasn't there before. And I really appreciate that, because no matter what I'm going through, I have the assurance that the Lord is with me.
Join thousands of people every Sunday at 10 a.m. in one faith. Based on this word, again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. Matthew 18:19. Receive the 7 prayers.
I don't know how long I had that disease, but the way I found out is I had went to the doctor to have my annual physical. So they called me about the results and told me to get to the hospital because my sugar was so high that was threatening a stroke. So I participated in drinking the blessed water. Faithfully, I did it every day. I just continued in my faith and coming to the church and fighting against it.
Deliverance.
I was a victim of witchcraft. My mother sacrificed me since I was young. I couldn't walk. I was paralyzed for a long time. I don't remember half of my life. I remember being in the hospital. It was King County Hospital. I remember that I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to write. I saw demons. People think that evil's not real. It is real. I went to a lot of churches, like 23 Christian church. And I never felt like I felt when I came to the Universal Church. But when I came to this ministry, from the very first time that I stepped through that door, I knew there was hope in this church.
Prosperity.
I had a business that was doing at one point rather well and went down substantially, and experienced just hard times trying to bring it up. I experienced also 3 deaths in my family. My mother, my father, my brother passed away. Then we had the recession, and I really never recovered from that. And it's still hard times, but since I've been coming to the church here, my business is starting to recoup. I see opportunities where my phone is ringing. I want this house built. I want this done. my business is starting to take off to another dimension.
Family.
I was about to separate with my husband, and during the time I was coming to church, I learned to forgive. And when I learned to forgive, I started working on my relationship with my husband. And when my husband never opened up to me, never told me what was going on with his life, until one day I got a knock on the front door, and it turned out to be the police. And I had to learn, okay, God, you are here. I learned through the church, through tribulations, you use your faith. And that's when I said, hey, that God is talking to me. This is a way I'm going to find a solution to my problem.
Love life.
And my husband and I were very happy, loving. Everybody in the neighborhood know us and always want their relationship to be like our relationship. Our relationship was an example that people wants to follow. Until one day I found out that my husband had someone else. And that turned me into a bitter and an angry person. Me surrendering my life to the Lord, I got baptized, was filled with the Holy Spirit. Now I have no hate. I'm not angry. I want to even save other people. Try to counsel other people who are going through problems in their marriage.
Encounter with God.
The suffering in my life, it started with me just basically having pain all over my body. And my mom took me to the doctor. They could not figure out what was wrong with me. I started having headaches, and the headaches get worse. It would go like from maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days. Then I started to have stomach pain. My whole body was in pain. And I just felt like something, just like a brick drop on my head. And I had that headache. It was so bad. And I was sweating. I felt like I was going to pass out. I wake up one Sunday morning and I'm coming to church and I'm like, I'm not leaving the church today without giving my life to God. I'm going to baptize today. And I came to church. Service is finished. I got baptized and I never looked back.
Temple of Miracles, 2420 Dufferin Street, Toronto. 2420 Dufferin Street, Toronto. And every Universal Church countrywide.
Lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps me is the Lord, the one who keeps Israel. Will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper. He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul. He protects me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in. From now on and forever, the He's my keeper. He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul. He protects me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in, from now on and forever. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help comes? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps me is the Lord. The one who keeps Israel.